Welcome back to Newsmakers. We are with Jamie Gough, Ali Jones and Joe Kane. It's been a testing week for the Prime Minister with two niggly issues demanding attention. First, the governance structure of the new Auckland Council and whether local iwi should be guaranteed representation by way of reserved seats around the table. We'll come to the Rodney factor in a moment, but first up, did Cabinet make the right call to reject race-based seats, Jamie?
Yeah, without a doubt. Absolutely. You guys are going to hit me when I say this because I say it every time and I believe it so much, but you don't fight discrimination with discrimination. End of story. And that's what it is. If people want to have representatives that are very passionate about Maori issues, well, hell, I'll vote them in then. The community will vote them in if that's what's important to them. But it's this reverse racism sort of thing that makes absolutely no sense.
Well, it's interesting that whenever we see these great hikois on the streets, you know, thousands and thousands of aggravated, upset, disenchanted voters, how many of them actually bother to get off their chuff on voting day?
And as people always say, you get the government which you deserve. And if people feel strongly about these issues, then you've got an opportunity to get them in there, and they can put their bits on the table and say, look, this is what I believe in, vote me in. We've got to also remember too that Maori rights, it's very much written into New Zealand legislation, so it's not going to be forgotten.
All right. Ali, how do you see it?
Oh, I'm really split on it. And I'm really split on it because we had Hector Matthews on the programme from the CDHB, and Hector always speaks so much sense. What he said too, and I would, ask me 3-4 years ago, I would have gone with Jamie, even a year ago, I would have gone exactly with Jamie on this. Part of me still does, but what we also have to look at is how old are Māori in New Zealand? They are a very, very, I'm talking about the voters, the age to vote. Now, you've got to look at the demographic breakdown of Māori in New Zealand as well. And there aren't enough Māori of voting age to be able to get the Māori in that they want in Auckland. Now, this is something that Hector's raised as well, and I think it's an interesting point. Tangata whenua are very important in New Zealand. They're unique in New Zealand. If they are that important and that unique, they need a voice on the council. Now, I don't know whether you can democratically vote Māori in because of the demographic makeup of voters and so on. So I think you have to look at that as well. One thing I will say about what the government's done is I think they've moved too quickly, and I think they needed to wait until everything had been looked at. We see it at City Council level here all the time. We know decisions are made before you get to, you know, reports being delivered and things being considered properly. They moved too quickly would be my criticism.
When it comes to the City Council, and I wonder if this is the same for the Regional Council, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Local Government Act requires local government to give special consideration to iwi concerns in accordance with the principles of the treaty when it comes to consultation, as if there's sort of like a separate channel of consultation with iwi on matters that are of interest to them. Is that correct?
That's right, and sometimes that's the way they want it. I mean, for me, the preference is that all of the stakeholders get to hear what the iwi concerns are, but sometimes they don't want it that way. They want their own individual, separate consultation, which I think is fraught with difficulties. And on the Auckland issue, don't disagree with them either, but why are we worried about Auckland's issues? I mean, I'm sick of hearing about this.
It's going to have a relevance down here, John.
No, I don't think it will. I think that I think there will be some amalgamations, but everybody will learn the lessons of what's actually happened in Auckland. And let them get on and solve it. I mean, the seats issue, I agree with Jamie. I mean, they do have the opportunity. There are some stunning Māori councillors, Māori MPs and what have you, that can lead and mentor the way through here. Just having a sort of a separate kind of way to get into that just doesn't. I don't think that's growing up in New Zealand.
Yeah, I agree with you as well, and I think what you find as well, we all know that we're becoming more and more multicultural. Are we going to have Asian seats, Indian seats, Australian seats?
They're not tangata whenua.
No, they're not, and there's a history there, and the history will always be recognised and appreciated. And at the end of the day, I don't have Maori blood in me, but I really appreciate that history, and it's important to me
But you've
too.
got a huge pool of people who can vote for you, Jamie, too, and I think you've got to look at
But it doesn't mean that necessarily that anyone that isn't Maori isn't going to vote for a Maori person.
No, but if you've got Maori interests at heart and that is your whakapapa, you are more likely to vote for someone who has got the same...
I'd be interested in looking at Hector's breakdown to think the percentages in Maori when we look at how mixed marriage... I mean, I wonder what he was breaking that down to. I mean, I know in Christchurch 7.2 is Maori, but 6.9 is Asian. Same needs, same issues, same...
But not same importance in the law of New
Yes, but the
Zealand.
legislation covers for that. These different routes that you can go through to do that.
Ali, just to throw one other question at you, which often crops up probably on shows like yours. Is there a danger that if, for example, the Christchurch City Council accords 2 reserved seats to Ngāi Tahu, that it actually creates this perception that Māori are special needs? You know, they're not up to scratch to go forward on their own feet, so they need a bit of a helping hand.
Well, I think that's a little simplistic in a way. I think that, looking at what Jamie said and Joe as well, one would say yes to that. But, we've got to remember that Ngāi Tahu are a really key, important part of Christchurch, of particularly of their iwi here in the South Island. And I wouldn't actually have a problem with 2 Māori seats or 2 representatives within the City Council to look at Māori issues.
Even though there's this huge amount of consultation already.
It doesn't work like that.
Well, I think it might help actually if you had someone at that level already.
The CDHB has 2 Māori appointments made by the government. They can get nowhere on that table unless they're able to convince the rest of the members at the table. That's fundamentally what's flawed with it.
Yeah, but at least you've got a starting point there of those 2 putting those points and the perspective to the board.
Well, I think all elected representatives have to consider Māori issues.
But I think
and that's why it won't work if you think that you can separate it away instead of making it the whole.
Yeah, and I really think it holds us back more than anything else because we're just keeping that separation there.
Yep.
Okay.
And making it different. It should be all.
Very quickly, yes or no, is Rodney a buffoon?
Yes.
No, I think he's made a valid point.
I can't answer that, but isn't he looking like a Ferengi? Don't you think he's looking like one of those?
I bring back the yellow jacket!
Look, Rodney's obviously done this to hit headlines with saying that he resigned. Well, Rodney's very good at it, isn't he?
He doesn't have the charisma that Winston has. It's like,
Just a very quick look at smacking. Of course, the anti-smackers were dealt a thumping defeat in the postal referendum, but will it come to anything? Is there a danger that if John Key doesn't front this issue in a responsive way, in a decisive manner, that he could bleed support to act? Could this hurt National in the polls, arguably just as it really hurt Labour, this issue? What do you think?
for the first time ever, I didn't vote. I just couldn't vote. I did not vote on this issue.
Why not?
Because it's a nonsense. The question was a nonsense, and exactly what's happened. I mean, I felt my conscience. I looked at it. I went, that doesn't answer what is the crux of the question.
You're absolutely right. And if you read it and if you don't understand it, you look at the question and it more or less says, should it be illegal to be a bad parent? Who in their right mind is going to say yes to that? It's more or less, if you're not familiar with the legislation, if you're not familiar with the bill, it's a joke. And for $9 million of our money to go into a question like that, which is a foregone conclusion, is crazy. Do you know what? That $9 million would have been better to go into SIFs and Plunkett and start identifying the problems.
Do you know how many children died in the whole time leading up to that referendum? I think we're up to 3 over that period of time.
It's not going to change anything
We
either.
talked about it before.
But the government needs to act on it.
It's saying it's okay for me to slap you, but it's not okay for me to slap you, but it's okay for you to. That's what it's saying, and that's what I had the fundamental.
Do you accept though that, for right or wrong, this issue rankles with the folks? It really rankles, doesn't it?
It's like a marriage, idiosyncrasies. The little things are ones that separate and tear you apart. Not the big things.
But it led to a divorce with the Nation and Auntie Helen, didn't it?
And it could do it again.
The really stupid thing, just quickly about this, is what I get annoyed about is constantly we're hearing, oh, there haven't been prosecutions, there haven't been, people before the courts. That isn't the key here for me, if you'll excuse the pun. The issue is how much time goes into investigating them, how much time is taken away from SIFs. I know 2 kids in the city who are living at the moment with a P user. SIFs know they don't have the staff to deal with it.
All right.
It's disgusting.
We will take a break. Coming up, we'll have a look at heritage in Christchurch and other issues. Do stay with us.